In the earliest annals of human intellectual achievement, Babylonian astrology emerges as a seminal endeavor that meticulously bridged the realms of celestial mechanics and divine interpretation. In ancient Mesopotamia, an era marked by profound advancements in record-keeping and celestial observation, the systematic study of the heavens was undertaken with an unprecedented level of rigor. Babylonian scholars, driven by both scientific inquiry and spiritual reverence, transformed intermittent observations of astronomical phenomena into a coherent system that coupled the positions of the sun, moon, and planets with the fates of empires and rulers. This narrative explores how the Babylonians, around 1800 BCE, developed an integrated philosophy that provided a framework for predicting terrestrial events based on celestial movements. Their methodology was predicated on the careful accumulation of long-term observational data, supported by an evolving symbolic system that linked specific astronomical events to omens. As the observer of these well-preserved records, one encounters a world where every planetary transit or unexpected celestial occurrence could be extrapolated into significant prognostic implications. The precision with which these early astrologers delineated the heavens evidenced an extraordinary commitment to empirical analysis, interwoven with a belief in the inherent order underlying the cosmos. The Babylonian approach, merging empirical measurement with theological symbolism, instituted a paradigm that would influence future esoteric and scientific thought. In this exploration, the convergence of practical observation, mathematical precision, and metaphysical inquiry will be examined in detail. The investigation will highlight how the ancient narratives of omens, formatted in clay tablets and inscribed with proto-mathematical notation, offer us a glimpse into the sophisticated interplay between science and spirituality during one of humanity's earliest periods of intellectual flourishing. This initial overview situates Babylonian astrology as not only a pioneering scientific tradition but also as a robust framework through which we may interpret the universal quest to understand and predict the nature of existence. The intricate tapestry of ancient Mesopotamian civilization provides an essential backdrop for understanding the development of Babylonian astrology. In a region characterized by fertile river valleys, where the confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates nurtured both agriculture and innovation, early Babylonians fostered a culture that prized observation and meticulous record maintenance. The society's profound emphasis on administration, law, and religious observance created an environment in which intellectual pursuits, including the study of celestial dynamics, could flourish. Within the bustling urban centers and amidst monumental constructions such as ziggurats, Babylonian scholars engaged in the detailed tracking of celestial cycles from their observatories, using early forms of mathematical instruments to compute the regularities of heavenly bodies. Rulers and priests alike viewed the cosmos as a divinely ordained tapestry, believing that the celestial order was directly correlated with the terrestrial order. Kings, whose authority was often sanctified by divine mandate, relied on astrologers to interpret the movements of planets as harbingers of state fortunes. A precise understanding of these patterns was imperative to secure legitimacy and guide decisions in both political and military contexts. This advanced integration of astronomy into the very fabric of governance signifies how the Babylonians not only witnessed the heavens but actively sought to harness cosmic phenomena to enforce social order. Furthermore, the accumulation of data over successive generations allowed them to recognize recurring astronomical events, leading to the formulation of a symbolic language that linked each sign and omen with the divine. Such a meticulous approach to capturing and interpreting celestial data illustrates how the Babylonian worldview was simultaneously empirical and metaphysical, providing an instructive model for subsequent cultures. The legacy of this convergence is evident in the sophisticated records that have survived millennia, revealing the complex interplay between observation, faith, and the assertion of political authority in one of humanity's earliest civilizations. Emerging from the fertile intellectual soil of Babylon, astrology developed as a discipline where systematic observation met rigorous symbolic interpretation. During this period, scholars and priests began to codify the language of the heavens, discerning that regular planetary movements and celestial events were not random but imbued with portent. This emergent astrological science was deeply rooted in the socio-political and religious structures of Babylon, where the cosmos was interpreted as a microcosm of divine order. Babylonian astrologers meticulously recorded the positions of the sun, moon, and planets on clay tablets, employing what can now be recognized as early computational methods. With deliberate precision, these scholars observed celestial cycles over extended periods, meticulously noting periodicities that later provided the underpinnings for predictive models. The integration of these astronomical data with mythological narratives allowed them to correlate specific planetary alignments with significant events such as military campaigns, transitions of leadership, or periods of environmental calamity. In this intellectual milieu, the role of the royal astrologer was paramount. Dressed in the regalia of authority, the astrologer would analyze vast libraries of omens and star charts, applying interpretive frameworks that linked the subtle movements of celestial bodies with the rise and fall of city-states. Their analyses were steeped in a belief that the divine communicated through the medium of the cosmos. This notion was supported by an intricate system of signs and symbolic associations, where each planet and constellation was paired with a deity and specific attributes that governed their terrestrial influence. The interplay between mathematical calculation and theological symbolism was central to Babylonian astrological practice, as calculations were designed not merely to predict but to reveal the underlying order of the universe. Advanced numerical methods were applied to generate predictive models, revealing a sophisticated understanding of periodic functions and angular displacement long before their formalization in later cultures. Thus, Babylonian astrology was as much a scientific endeavor as it was a spiritual practice, characterized by techniques that included series approximations and algorithmic predictions. This deep-seated connection between the mathematical and the mystical ensured that Babylonian astrology wielded considerable influence over not only the governance of the era but also established enduring principles that would persist in subsequent astrological traditions. A groundbreaking development in Babylonian astrological practice was the formulation of the zodiac, a methodological partitioning of the celestial sphere that allowed for a systematic tracking of planetary motions. The Babylonians devised a scheme to divide the heavens into 12 equal segments, each segment corresponding to a specific constellation and imbued with distinctive religious and mythological significance. This rigorously defined division provided a structured framework that was essential for the advancement of predictive astrology. Scholars in ancient Babylon employed precise observational techniques to demarcate these sectors, ensuring that the boundaries were both mathematically consistent and symbolically resonant. For instance, the celestial segment associated with Jupiter was linked with Marduk, the chief deity, reflecting attributes of authority and divine oversight. The method by which the zodiac was constructed involved both geometric reasoning and empirical measurements, techniques that were revolutionary for their era. Advanced records indicate that the Babylonians used angular measurements and proportional divisions to achieve consistency in the spatial assignment of these segments. This precise segmentation was not solely a mathematical construct. It carried substantial cosmological implications. Each section of the zodiac served as a celestial repository of myth, encapsulating the essences of various deities and the fated fortunes of individuals and states alike. With the heavens divided into discernible parts, astrologers could correlate specific planetary movements within these sectors to significant terrestrial events. The process of dividing the sky into 12 segments also introduced a cyclical dimension to astrological prediction, as recurring planetary passages were interpreted as periodic renewals of cosmic influence. Such cyclical thinking paved the way for later astronomical models in Greek and Hellenistic traditions. In this manner, the Babylonian conceptualization of the zodiac stands as a testament to their advanced understanding of geometry, astronomy, and symbolic logic. It remains one of the most enduring legacies of their scientific and metaphysical endeavors, influencing the structure and interpretive frameworks of subsequent astrological systems across diverse cultures. In the realm of Babylonian astrology, celestial omens represented a sophisticated lexicon through which divine messages were communicated to earthly powers. The process of interpreting these omens involved a careful synthesis of astronomical observation, precise record-keeping, and symbolic analysis. Babylonian scholars compiled extensive codices on clay tablets, wherein they meticulously documented occurrences such as eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and anomalous stellar events. Each recorded phenomenon was not viewed in isolation but rather evaluated against a comprehensive framework of symbolic correspondences. The Babylonians considered these events as manifestations of divine discontent or favor, and thus their interpretations were deeply intertwined with both ritualistic practices and strategic decision-making. Within the observational centers of Babylon, scholars employed early forms of predictive calculus to establish correlations between celestial alignments and political or environmental outcomes. A notable instance of this process is the systematic association of specific planetary configurations with impending military engagements or potential breaches in social order. The resulting omens were articulated with precision. For example, A rare conjunction of Venus and Mars might herald not only a prophetic warning but also serve as an impetus for preemptive political actions. Through the use of a meticulously codified language of signs, the Babylonians achieved an advanced method of pattern recognition that underscored the interdependence of cosmic phenomena and terrestrial events. This analytical framework demanded a rigorous application of both qualitative and quantitative techniques. Observers would compare new occurrences with historical data, applying statistical reasoning to determine the significance of recurring events. In doing so, they laid the groundwork for a proto-scientific method that anticipated later developments in data analysis and probability theory. The narrative woven by these ancient records reveals that the Babylonian interpretation of omens was as much an art as it was a science. Their systematic approach allowed them to establish a consistent predictive model that was both mathematically robust and philosophically profound. As modern scholars revisit these ancient techniques, they continue to unearth insights into early methodologies that sought to capture the ephemeral interplay between the heavens and human affairs. Through this lens, the Babylonian practice of omen interpretation stands as a paradigmatic example of early integrative thinking, combining observation with divine symbolism to construct a holistic worldview. The Babylonian contributions to astrological practice were firmly underpinned by a remarkable dedication to mathematical precision and rigorous observational methodology. Within the academic centers of Babylon, scholars employed advanced numerical techniques to chart the movement of celestial bodies, establishing a predictive framework that was both innovative and enduring. Their observational records, inscribed on clay tablets and organized with methodical precision, reveal a systematic approach to tracking planetary cycles and eclipses that prefigured later developments in classical astronomy. Babylonian astronomers utilized early forms of arithmetic and geometry to compute the periodic positions of the sun, moon, and planets. These calculations were not performed haphazardly. Rather, they were based on continuous, long-term data collection and careful correlation of observed events with predictable patterns. This empirical methodology allowed for the formulation of rudimentary models of celestial mechanics, crafted with an accuracy that astonishes modern scholars. The precision evidenced in these records is indicative of an advanced understanding of periodic functions and cyclic phenomena. Employing techniques that involve successive approximations, Babylonian mathematicians were able to forecast astronomical events years in advance with a degree of reliability that underscored their commitment to empirical rigor. Furthermore, the interplay between numerical calculation and symbolic interpretation in Babylonian astrology provided a dual framework, one that was oriented toward practical prediction and another toward the interpretation of divine will. The simultaneous adherence to quantitative analysis and metaphysical inquiry constitutes one of the earliest examples of an interdisciplinary scientific approach. As a result, the Babylonian commitment to mathematical precision not only bolstered their astrological predictions but also laid the foundational principles upon which modern astronomy would eventually be built. This enduring legacy underscores the intellectual courage of an ancient civilization that dared to measure the cosmos with precision and interpret it with meaning, leaving an indelible mark on the annals of scientific history. The influence of Babylonian astrology on subsequent astrological traditions is both profound and far-reaching, establishing a template that has resonated through the ages. Subsequent civilizations, notably those in Egypt, Greece, and later Western cultures, absorbed and refined the Babylonian methods of celestial observation, mathematical calculation, and symbolic interpretation. The zodiac, as developed by the Babylonians, became a universal schema that transcended cultural boundaries, offering a structured means of mapping the heavens and predicting events. Greek astronomers and astrologers, in particular, integrated Babylonian data into their own systems, leading to an evolution from mundane predictions geared toward state affairs into more personalized horoscopic systems. This transition was characterized by the adaptation of earlier methods to include individualized birth charts and the assessment of personal destiny, a transformation made possible by the robust observational and mathematical traditions inherited from Babylon. The enduring legacy of Babylonian astrology is evidenced by the persistence of techniques such as the systematic recording of eclipse cycles and the application of proportional reasoning to decipher celestial patterns. These methods not only enriched the symbolic language of astrology but also contributed significantly to the gradual development of modern astronomical practices. In reflecting on this historical continuity, one appreciates how the empirical dedication and conceptual depth of the Babylonians provided a cornerstone for a discipline that bridges science and spirituality. Their rigorous approach to data collection, pattern recognition, and the interpretive articulation of omens supplied a methodological framework that continues to inform current debates in both scientific and esoteric communities. As one delves into the intricate details of Babylonian astrological texts, it becomes evident that the legacy of this ancient pursuit is not merely an artifact of the past, but rather a living testament to the enduring human desire to comprehend the cosmos. In closing, the profound synthesis of precision, symbolism, and predictive acumen that characterized Babylonian astrology endures as a pivotal chapter in the intellectual history of humankind, inspiring ongoing inquiry and reverence for the mysteries of the universe.